So are you gonna give it if it goes in your phone?
Maybe.
Hi, Mom.
Hi.
Cool. Ready?
What would you do if you're trying to escape a war-ridden zone and you got caught in between where your family was and where you're trying to escape from? That's what's happening to thousands of kids right now who are refugees in Greece and can't get through. Basically, they were taking the Balkan route, so that you can see right here, and they're coming up from the war-ridden areas, so that's places like Iraq, Afghanistan, and Sudan, and they're coming up all the way to get to parts of Eastern Europe, and they actually closed the border right here, right at the end of Greece, so there's a ton of children trapped there and they can't get to their families. Basically, I just want to inform you guys about the problem that's going on, and I want to let you know really what's happening over there. So I'm going to talk about how they've got no housing there, how it's really dangerous on the streets, how they've got little to no support from family or social workers, and then I'm going to share a personal story with you guys. The problem's rapidly growing. There's over 1.2 million refugees headed to Europe in 2015, and it's only getting worse. So one of the scariest problems, like I mentioned earlier, is that they've got little to support there, the refugees, because they're going to meet their families or they're escaping war zones and they don't have parents there. There are some social workers, but they're very hard to get a hold of. And again, they're children, so they're escaping war zones. They're trying to go to different places in Europe and meet their family. And there's kids like 13, 10 years old that were sent ahead and they can't get away. Many cases they were sent ahead, so their families were coming later and waiting. They wanted to get their kids out of the war zone before they had a place to go, and then they were trapped. But in other cases, their families are already there and they're trying to meet them. And for some reason, they just wanted to stop the refugees from coming through, so they shut the border. So according to the article, thousands of child refugees stranded alone in Greece from globalissues.org. Up to the end of May, there have been 1,875 cases, so 1,768 boys and 107 girls, and it's likely the number will keep increasing while authority organizations identify more of these kids throughout the reception camps. That was said by Kiki, who's a social worker there, so like I said, the numbers are growing and they just honestly can't get through. If by some miracle children can get in contact with a social worker or refugee center, the housing that they give them is just really awful. It's nothing to look forward to. So it's not gender separated, so there's a lot of sexual offense occurring, so there's young girls getting raped and molested there, and the housing they give them is all kind of cramped in all ages and all genders, which just isn't what you want. It's not well lit, which means it's prone to crime. It's just kind of these dark like alleyways and warehouses that they give them to live in, and there's lots of crime happening, so you don't really want to live there, especially if you're a kid. And besides that, even if you did get there, they're impossible to get into. Like I said, there's not many social workers. You can't really get in contact with people. You sit on waiting lists for years and years, and they can't really get into them. In that same article, a refugee safe home needs skilled personnel in sexual and gender-based violence monitoring and response, more female translators, and investment in provision or psychological aid for the haven to be safe. That was by a German organization, Pro Assel, who kind of works with this. That's another problem. They're in Greece and they're immigrating from other areas. They don't even have translators. They can't talk to the people that are trying to help them, and they're stuck in these awful houses. And then due to the previously mentions, I personally wouldn't want to live in the provided houses that they're giving, but the danger these children are encountering on the streets isn't really much better. So if you're not going to live in the houses they provide, you're kind of living in tent cities. There's tents set up everywhere in just like main squares and stuff like that. They're mistreated by authorities. People don't really want them there, but they're stuck there, so people aren't really giving them a chance to, live there. They're trying to be kicked out all the time. Children who don't live in the houses are trying to make money other ways to just stay alive, and they're getting bribed by smugglers and sold into trafficking, which really isn't good. And then also just abuse and harassment. It's a lot of people in one location. There's a lot of stuff happening, and they're just always being harassed. So, reports last month show strong evidence that the ongoing refugee crisis has been exploited by criminal networks involving trafficking human beings to target the most vulnerable, in particular women and children. So they're taking kids who have no place to stay and don't have money and convincing them to go into like sex trafficking, human trafficking, stuff like that. So it's just really not a good place to be. And then if some of the facts and figures haven't woken you up to this, I'm just going to share a quick personal story. So, there's a kid named Abdul. He is 13 years old. When they asked him, he said he's like 13, 6 months. And He's really cute, but he came from Afghanistan 2 months ago, and he's trying to get to his sister in Germany. So he's going through this way, and that's, if you don't know, 6,525 kilometers without the detour through Greece. So he actually went over to Greece and got stuck there, and he's trying to get to Germany and Eastern Europe like most of the kids are. He's learning from like the older kids there, like some things, like they busted open like a box to charge people's phones. He talked about a little bit about different cafes, like some will let you in if you buy a coffee to go to the bathroom, some won't. Otherwise they have to go in like bushes and like which ones to use, stuff like that. He's staying in Victoria Square in Greece with 300 other people in the tent city. The only thing that he said when they asked him for like a direct quote is that he feels just very alone. He's 13 years old, he doesn't have anyone from his family there, and he's just kind of trying to survive and learning the ways. The worst part is that the problem just isn't close to being solved. So there's 548 new positions or new requests asked for the past month, and that's just in 1 month. So 548 people were like requesting help. So again, they've just got little support, no housing, dangerous, and like you heard about Abdul's story, they're just kind of alone, and the problem's growing and there's not really a solution in sight.